Show is intended to be comedic, informative in nature. There may be some cuss words, because that's how humans in the real world talk. But with that said, the opinions expressed on this show do not serve in any way to demean or dismiss the right to the beliefs our audience or anyone on our panel may have. Now get ready to take it all in, as the countdown to crazy begins now.
3, 2, 1, go.
Welcome, sports people, to another jam-packed episode of the Sunday Night Sports Nerd Show. My name is Big E, and for the next 60 minutes, Scott and his co-host, also known as the Ram Pack, will bring all the smoke they got in order to set this show and all of Sports Nerd Nation on fire. So sit back and lock in, Nation, as I set this episode off by introducing you to the founder, the host, and the star of the Sports Nerd Show, Scott, the Sports Nerd Wright.
Hello, everyone, and welcome again to another edition of the Sports Nerds Thursday night edition, proudly first streaming 3 times per week on the Sports Nerds Network. I am your humble host, Mr. Scott, the Sports Nerd Wright, and along with my co-host, Mr. Elliot Big E Lamba, Mr. Ken will be here a little bit later. Go Cowboys Coslow and Mr. Wayne Lynch, and our special guest tonight, Mr. Derek Lofland, to talk the upcoming NFL draft. We will discuss the week that was in the world of sports. We are live Sunday, Tuesday, and Thursday nights on Facebook, Twitter, Twitch, YouTube, and on the blockchain, courtesy of Vim.tv. And if you missed the live broadcast, you can watch the replays on Spotify, Facebook, Apple Podcasts, and on the blockchain via PeakD. Gentlemen, good evening. Welcome to the show, Derek. It's good to have you back after a long hiatus.
Thanks for having me.
Yep. You've been doing all right, my friend?
I have been in the process of moving. We just moved into a new house in January. As people can probably see the boxes stacked up back there, but we're slowly getting settled in. So
okay.
It's been a busy.
What's the reason for the move to Michigan?
My wife and I actually lived over here for about 4 months during the pandemic when we got displaced, and we just absolutely love the lakes over here. She likes to go horseback riding. I like fishing, and we got out of the craziness of the city and into a smaller area. Are
you working virtually? You're still doing in the lawyer business, right? You usually work. Are you working virtually from home?
I am. I can appear on all my court calls virtually, so that was one reason we were able to move out here. I can still take the train, and it takes me about an hour to get downtown Chicago if I need to get there. But so I consider myself in the southeast suburbs instead of the northwest suburbs. Like I
was. Oh man. Well, let's start with the biggest news story of the day. So long, farewell, and good riddance to O.J. Simpson.
Well, you know what? I disagree with that.
Why?
First of all, okay, the guy contributed to a sport heavily during his playing time. And yes,
he's a Hall of Famer, and he was a Heisman Trophy winner. I understand that.
Right. And in the end, you got to understand that he was acquitted. Okay? You can scream up and down all you want that he's the one that did it, he's the one that did it, but until you can show the proof that shows otherwise, you know what I'm saying? I've seen all kinds of people bashing him, and it's like, you know what? That's disrespect to his family, because he still has a family that cares about him, loves him. Adam Schefter got railed on Twitter today because he chose to include the court thing from way back in the 90s, which is very insensitive when it comes to, again, you've got people, the message that he put out came out after the family asked that their privacy and this and that be respected, so on and so forth. Mm. So yeah, you might not like OJ the man, but you know what? He still has a family that's missing him, mourning him, okay? And like I said, I mean, he was found guilty later of some other stuff, which some people believe was trumped up just to make up for the fact that he wasn't convicted for those
murders.
Right.
Yeah, I know that, yeah.
Okay? So, you know, again, he was an enigmatic figure after his football career, and with everything that happened, I know he got acquitted because of Johnny Cochran. Johnny Cochran was a fabulous lawyer, and he pushed all the buttons to make sure that he didn't get acquitted.
Yep.
but at the same time, to say good riddance to a human being like
Well, and that was cold, and I apologize for that. You're right.
you know, he's
But
still a human being. He still has family that loves him. He still,
yeah.
at some point in his life, was a great person. Okay.
Yep.
He was a great football player.
Unfortunately, like I said, he's still human, and you can't cast him out like garbage. You know what I'm saying?
I mean, my only
He
thought
will
though
meet
is
his maker. He will meet his maker, and he will decide what he's going to do.
Yeah, agreed.
you're pointing the wrong way. He's,
If God knows that he did it, that's
Yeah.
where he's going to go.
Yes.
But you know what? We don't know. Do we know if he winds up in hell?
I don't know. I'm not in charge.
Well, they're not going to call us and tell us. They're not going to announce it. The devil's not going to go on ESPN and say, "Hey, I got a new tenant." Okay, nobody's ever going to know.
We got a Zoom call. We got a Zoom call from hell. It's the devil. OJ's here. I don't think that's going to happen, though.
No, it's not going to happen. You know, I mean, let me step back and do this again. I had no idea he was suffering from cancer. Okay.
He announced it last year.
Oh, did he?
He said that he had some form of cancer.
It was prostate. It was prostate cancer.
In the end, yeah, they found out it was prostate, but he went for the longest time, even when they put him in hospice for a little while.
Yeah, I think he posted something about that on Twitter.
He came back out and was like, hospice with a question mark. You know, so he wasn't trying. You know what? He could have tried to use the pity card,
but he didn't.
He just continued to live the rest of his life.
He fought his cancer. He battled with whatever, and now he's gone. God rest his soul, wherever he winds up.
May he find peace in the afterlife. I'm just saying.
Exactly.
I mean, my thought though is, I mean, Ron Goldman has a family too, and
they all have families.
Brown Simpson. They all have families, and he was found liable of wrongful death, and there's that second trial that happened too, and I think you need to mention his football career because that's what he's known for and famous for, and we're a sports show. That's why why it's being talked about here. But I don't see how you can't talk about the other. They both go together because they're two huge parts of his.
Well, they go together mostly thanks to the media, because the media just they couldn't resist, and they still don't resist bringing people down left and right. I understand that he might have done some wrong. Again, on this earth, he was proven innocent. He was acquitted of the accusation or the crime.
Whether we like it or not, right?
Whether we like it or not. Okay. I understand Ron Goldman, Nicole Simpson, they got families too. Their cross was bared 30 years ago. Okay, this is a whole different lifetime now. Okay, and like I said, he could have been an ass and tried to be, going to a pity party about his cancer and this and that. No, but once he got out of jail in Vegas, okay, how much did you hear about OJ after that?
Didn't hear a word about him.
Exactly.
Very low key at that point.
Because he decided to lay low and not make himself or put himself in front of those people that suffered all those years and are still suffering today.
Yep.
Okay. So in the end, I believe that deep down inside, he was a good person. He just got caught up in some bad shit.
Well, and you know what, and it could be also a result of his temper, because we all know he had a temper, and there were a lot of reports of domestic violence between him and Nicole, and other women in his life too. I'm not gonna get into that. I admired him as a football player. He was the first player in NFL history to ever rush for 2,000 yards in one season.
I actually watched him that season in 14 games, by the way.
Yeah, in 14 games.
None of this 16, 17 game
and he was a Heisman Trophy winner. He was an NFL Hall of Famer. He had a pretty decent acting career and a broadcasting career as well.
And a marketing career too.
Before all the trouble happened. I mean, and his Hertz commercials will be down in history as one of the best commercial, one of the best marketing gigs ever. I mean, he was really good in the Hertz commercials. And I guess I need to be more forgiving. I can't, but part of me also can't put aside
Just right. Okay.
the horror and what happened
Right.
to Nicole and Ron. Okay. And Jimmy Cochran was a genius. Rest his soul, because he's also gone. But the trial, I know exactly where I was when the Bronco chase happened. I know exactly where I was when the verdict was written. I had my 1-year-old son sitting next to me on a couch in my mom's house when that verdict was written or read. So it's,
Just to piggyback on what Derek said about you can't talk about him and his football career without talking about
the other
stuff. Okay, I get that. He'll always have that. He'll always have both sides. You mention one side, the other side is going to pop up. Okay, especially if you're talking about his football and then the events that occurred 30 years ago and so on and so forth.
It's been 30 years too.
Yep.
Yeah, this is the 30th year.
It's been 30 years. Yeah.
I'll tell you something funny. I'm one of the few people probably that didn't even find out about the Bronco chase until after I got back into the United States, because I was fishing with my family up in Canada, about 500 miles north of Winnipeg, and we didn't have we didn't have any TV reception up there, and radio was even hard to come by. We didn't actually find out about that until we got into the United States and saw all the papers that we had in the mail.
It was so serene, Derek. I'm not kidding you. I mean, it was just odd.
You mean surreal?
Surreal, that's what I meant. Yeah, it was surreal because it was just so odd.
It happened during the NBA Finals. I mean,
and NBC was flipping back and forth between the finals and the broadcast. Yeah,
it was the Knicks in Houston, as a matter of fact.
Yeah.
Well, the one.
But here's the thing with me. Okay, I understand that he had a football career. He had a whatever life after that, tumultuous, if that's a word I could use. Okay, but I'm a person that of faith. Okay, and I don't believe there's any good in stomping on somebody's grave once they're done.
I'll piggyback on what you said and basically say, whether he committed these crimes or not, if he did, if he asked God to forgive him, and that's between he and God, and at that point, once again, as you stated earlier, here on earth, we can't judge his actions.
We can judge all we want.
We can judge his actions, but we're not the ultimate judge of what occurs after not only he, but when we are done with this world and move on to the next.
Yep. He's gone. A lot of people are celebrating it. I get that. You know what I mean? This is why this world is so polarized. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And I just think that if we contribute to that, we're no better than anybody else.
Exactly.
If we contribute to that hate, then we're no better than the people that do the hating.
Yeah. Well, rest in peace, OJ. I hope you find it. That's all I'm saying.
I hope he gets up there and apologizes to Nicole and Ron Goldman and does his penance up in heaven or in hell, wherever he winds up. You know what I mean? Or he might wind up in the abyss, somewhere in between.
Right. In other news, well, the draft's coming in a couple weeks. We're going to talk about the draft here in a little bit because I want to get Derek's point on it. First, let's see the other big news that came out. Shohei Ohtani's ex-interpreter stole a total of $16 million. They're saying now, and he's getting hit, and he's now under investigation and going to be charged with bank fraud along with other charges as a result of the money he stole. He filed a complaint accusing him of bank fraud. That's what federal authorities are saying. They are saying that Ohtani is still considered a victim in this case.
Bullshit.
Really?
I have a hard time believing that.
I think Otani's full of shit, to be honest with you, because when the report first came out, he knew all about the money being taken and helped him pay his debt.
Yep.
And then when he went on his press conference, he knew nothing about it. You can't walk back something that you said in the beginning, and now because you think it's going to ruin your standing.
Right.
Okay.
He's got a lot to lose, though, so
deny it.
He's got so
How
much
would
to
that stand
lose.
up in a court of law, Derek?
Go ask Pete Rose how much he has to lose. I mean, he's the one that was gambling on the games and placing the bets through the money manager. I mean, that becomes a huge problem because he's a guy that people consider the modern day Babe Ruth with his ability to both be an all-star hitter and an all-star pitcher, and he's competing for a legacy, and that's not something. That's one thing that the league frown on is the gambling aspect.
It's like what Pete Rose said. He was one interpreter away from being in the Hall of Fame.
Well, he's not lying.
No, so true.
So, I don't know. Like I said, I think the problem here is that baseball is going so far out of their way to make this guy the face of the game that they're willing to cover up and sweep shit under the rug to get it done.
That worked out well for him during the steroid scandal, right?
Yeah,
Right.
That's basically what they did then. Is they knew that Sosa and McGuire and Bonds and all those guys that were suspected of being involved in steroid use, and instead of trying to get to the bottom of it, they just took the ratings and the home runs. And,
I was gonna say because of the steroids, it gave baseball more ratings because the play was so good, it was so exciting, and including the home run race between McGuire and Sosa. I mean, that relit the fire of Major League Baseball, and just kept it as America's pastime.
Right, you
Personally-
just said that. I was just thinking that. You just said America's pastime. That was
Right.
stuck in my head right now.
Yeah.
Well,
Well,
if
they
it's
needed that.
America's
They
pastime, why the hell are we defending somebody from another country?
Yeah. Well, not only that, they needed it after the strike.
right.
Yes, yeah, because
They needed it after the strike at that
Yeah,
point.
you mean the year that the Expos got robbed of a World Series?
Well, a potential
Yes.
World Series
Absolutely.
appearance. Yeah. So they needed
You
that
don't-
because
you don't
baseball
know
is
what
falling on
Montreal
hard
would
times.
You don't know what Montreal would have done in the playoffs.
They
or
were on
even if
they
they
were
would
on a
have made
pace,
the
man.
World
They were
Series.
on a fiery pace.
They were so good.
They were
And
so
so were
good.
the Boston Bruins last year, and a lot of other teams. The Tampa Bay Lightning 3 years ago against
You
Columbus.
always got to bring that up. You got
You
to
know what I'm
always gotta
saying?
bring that
Well,
up.
if you're going to stick your foot in your mouth, go right ahead. I'm willing to stick another one in it.
The thing that always drives me nuts, though, is they say Roger Clemens can't be inducted into the Hall of Fame because he used steroids, but the Yankees don't have any of their championships vacated, even though he was a player on the team that helped him win the games. And that's the mental gymnastics I've never been able to get over, is how come the players are the ones that are held
Which player?
accountable by not getting Roger Clemens, a number of, I mean, he was one of the starting pitchers on the Yankees that won all the games for him while using steroids, and the Yankees don't have to give up any of their championships because they had players with steroids, but the players can't get into the Hall of Fame even though
And what
they
about
use, I
Kurt
don't
Schilling?
get,
And what about
And
Kurt
that's the
Schilling?
politics, and that's the politics of baseball
yeah.
in a nutshell. Stuff
Well,
like that.
steroids have never, enhanced your hand-eye coordination.
Correct. Yeah, you still got to hit the ball.
You still got to
you
put
gotta
the
hit
bat
it.
on the ball correctly. You know what I'm saying? It might speed up how far you can hit it, but if
But
you
you gotta
can't
hit
square
it.
it up, I could give a scrub steroids, and they're not going to fucking get 50 home runs in a season.
Right.
So there's an argument for those kinds of things either way, and there will be.
Unless you're Brady Anderson. Hit 51 year and then go back to hitting 11.
Yeah, well, that's how that works. And I'm sure there was a lot more people doing steroids. I'll be honest with you, I think LeBron James does steroids. To be honest.
Well, we know your hatred of LeBron James. So
Well,
it's
and
okay.
he's not the only one. There's a lot of guys that are probably getting away with that shit that won't be held accountable because they're the face of the league.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But you've had many people come out and say that LeBron is under. There have been some stories out there that LeBron might have been involved and could still be involved. You know what I'm saying? But that's a whole nother situation whatsoever.
One thing I've always wondered is, and this is getting a little bit off topic, but Bo Jackson, everybody talks about what an amazing athlete he was in his time, but he came around right before the steroid scandal came, so there was no, that he doesn't get associated with that. I'm not saying that he did steroids at all. I don't think he did. But you do wonder, if his career had come along about 10 years later than what it did, and he was doing all those physically freakish things, where the speculation would have gone with that. Because like LeBron James, I mean, he's a physical freak in basketball. There's never been anybody with that size and that height. But you see that, and you're like, oh, there must be something in a lab that's helping make that happen. But, somebody like Bo Jackson, who came around in the 80s, that wasn't there because the thought process of that going on was
and Bo Jackson was a freak in nature. He really was. He really was.
But at that same time, or recently after that, you still had a few other players who were going with two sports. You had Brian Jordan, and you also
Deion Sanders,
and a few others as well. Danny Ainge, well, that's the early 80s, but Danny Ainge as well. So a lot of two sport players.
Yeah.
Well, Kyler Murray's a two-sport star too. He played baseball in college.
Not necessarily because he's not playing the other sport.
Right, but he's not playing the sport.
I'm talking about two guys that played in the professional leagues pretty much simultaneously.
Right.
Okay.
Yep.
That's what you call a two-sport star.
Yep.
Yeah. Well, a two-sport star from the standpoint, Deion Sanders, you play a football game, then you finish the game, then
get on a plane and go to New York to play a baseball game.
And then go play the baseball game that night.
Yes. That's the ultimate two-star athlete right there.
There you go.
Which is why I think Deion gets all the hype that he gets. Because if you look at it, if you crunch it down to the bottom line, he's probably the most prolific two-sport star that there has been. Because he was willing to play both games on the same day if he had to.
I'd still go with Bo Jackson.
Yeah, I give him number one on the list, and Bo number two only because Bo's career ended abruptly.
Prematurely. Yep.
I give Bo number one just because Bo was the MVP of the All-Star game and he made the Pro Bowl. Deion Sanders is a Hall of Fame football player, maybe the best corner ever in the history of the league, but he was an average baseball player. He would have never had a Hall of Fame baseball career. Where Bo Jackson was on pace to be in the conversation for
He was
what
on
did you
pace.
say again? Deion Sanders is what? The best cornerback?
Corner.
He's in the conversation as one of the best cornerbacks in the history of the NFL.
And what were you railing me? What were you railing the other day, Scott, about that list I read off where Deion was the number one quarterback of all time?
I know he's in the discussion.
Yeah.
My issue with your list,
that he's in the discussion. You are right.
Yeah, my issue with your list the other day was Darrelle Revis being number 10.
Well, again, Darrelle Revis number 10 historically. I mean, because you had other guys in there from earlier eras.
Well, yeah, Night Train Lane, but
not everybody's going to make the top 10.
Yeah, well, Night Train Lane, he shouldn't be there. He should have been in jail for all the stuff he did.
And that's another story all in itself, right?
Oh, God. But Bo Jackson was on pace to be a Hall of Famer in both sports.
Right.
I mean, think about that. He was on pace to be a baseball Hall of Famer and a football Hall of Famer, but he was cut short after he got that injury in Cincinnati. So
actually, it was in Oakland, but Cincinnati was.
It was against Cincinnati.
Yeah,
I know that.
Yeah, against Cincinnati.
It was in Los Angeles.
Yeah, well, Los Angeles.
Well, LA, okay.
Wherever they were playing at that time, it could be a handful of places.
It wasn't Vegas.
Definitely wasn't Vegas.
All right, Mr. Lofland. Tell me what you think about this kid from USC that they're all singing his praises.
Caleb Williams, yeah.
Caleb Williams is the next coming of Patrick Mahomes.
Whatever.
At all. I mean, have you watched him play?
I bet you Jaden Daniels does better than him.
If I were the Bears and I was in charge of their number one pick, I'd take Caleb Williams. I think I do think he's the real deal. He played in a pro-style offense with Lincoln Riley at USC, and I think he's got all the physical tools. Now, does that mean that he's a slam dunk, first ballot Hall of Famer? No, I don't think any of these guys are. The only quarterbacks that I've watched in college that I thought were can't-miss prospects were Peyton Manning and Andrew Luck. And then John Elway, I would have thought the same thing about, but I was 5 years old, so I can't say that, that I thought that about John Elway at the time. But when you look at John Elway's resume coming out of college, everybody said he was the most pro-ready quarterback that people had seen coming out of college, and it lived up to that. Those are the three. I don't think Caleb Williams is in that group. I think there's a lot of things that could go wrong for him in Chicago, but. As far as this draft class goes, that's the guy that I think is the most.
Well, but Chicago's actually done some really good things in the offseason to get some talent around him when he does come in, when they do draft him. They went out and got wide receivers. They got offensive linemen. I mean, they really did some really good things in free agency to bolster that team. And I think the Bears are going to be. Do I think they're going to win the division? No, I don't. I think Detroit still has the inside track to win that division. Maybe even Green Bay with the way they played this past year as well.
That's all going to come down to how their defense plays.
Yeah, it's going to be the defense. Yeah, you're right, Elliot. Caleb Williams is supposed to be the guy. I feel bad for Justin Fields because he got tossed aside like a bad egg. Because the reason I feel bad is because the fan base in Chicago really liked Justin Fields. They really did. But he's in Philadelphia now. I'm sure he'll be fine. So
Pittsburgh.
Yeah, he's in Pittsburgh.
You got the state right.
You got you're in the vicinity.
Yeah. I don't want to see. I don't fear Russell Wilson. I fear. I fear. Oh God.
Justin Fields.
That's
all right. We're here to
As a
help.
Browns fan, I don't want to see him on the field. I'd much rather have Russell Wilson because Russell has not proven to me he's as good as he was in Seattle.
Well, I feel bad for Justin Fields because the last half of the season last year, the Bears actually were a decent team, and they could have rode that horse one more year.
I don't agree. I think how you kind of know is if you take a poll of Packer fans, Lion fans, and Vikings fans and ask them, would you rather have Justin Fields there or would you rather have them take Caleb Williams? I'd rather have them kept Justin Fields and gone with that for another year because the defense is what propelled them to that good stretch. He had about an 85 quarterback rating in those last 8 games. They made the trade for Sweat and the defense was stellar against the run in the second half of the year. Justin Fields really did not play great football to me down the stretch. He has a lot to be desired as a passer, and I think Caleb Williams, he could be that guy, and I think the Bears had to make that the trade that they did.
Okay.
Well, they put
So who
themselves
goes-
in position for that, though. So I commend them for that. Plus, anytime you can get Carolina's pick, how many?
How bad did Chicago make out with that freaking trade? Oh my God! I mean, now they got 2 picks in the top 10, 1 and 9, because Carolina should have bricked this past season, and therefore they gave up.
Carolina's been shitting bricks for a while now.
This is true too.
What do you mean last?
Yeah.
That is one of the worst run franchises in the league, and then they didn't even solve their quarterback problem because with Bryce Young. I mean,
He ain't.
I don't know if he can play or not, and with all they gave up, you would hope that you knew that he could play. I mean, they're having to go with him this year because they financially are invested.
Well, the thing
They were
is,
better off trading for Trey Lance.
Yeah, I mean,
right.
the problem with Carolina is they didn't put any talent around him either. They just took him as a quarterback and figured they'd be fine. They didn't add any talent. I mean, his offensive line was full. Was like Swiss cheese.
His coach lasted for how long? 10 weeks.
And Frank Reich got a raw deal. It wasn't Frank
Wright
Reich's
got
fault
cheated.
they were playing so bad.
Yeah, he got a raw. He didn't have talent around him, in front of him, behind him.
Right.
Take your pick. And then
they
Frank
go out
Reich.
and get, and then they go out and get rid of guys like Brian Burns.
Yep.
You know what I'm saying?
Who they could have had a much better deal with the Rams last year, and they settled on that trade for the Giants this year. They got nothing for McCaffrey, and he's been the catalyst behind the Niners' offense the last couple of years. I mean, just the mismanagement that has gone with trading assets,
is a piece of work.
using
The
draft
new
picks.
owner's a piece of work too. So I mean,
Here's the difference between McCaffrey in Carolina and in San Francisco. McCaffrey hasn't really gotten injured with San Francisco.
No, he hasn't.
Because
He's
he
been
doesn't have
healthy.
to carry all the workload in San Francisco.
Well, that's because he doesn't have to. Right. I mean, the guy had 400 touches one season,
Yeah. Yeah.
and he's not a big guy.
Yeah.
No,
I
McCaffrey
understand
did.
he's strong and this and that, but you get hit by these linemen and these linebackers.
Right.
400 carries in one season? That's ridiculous.
That'll grind you down in a hurry.
Right. I mean, and like Wayne said, he doesn't have to be the workhorse in San Francisco because they got so much other talent around him. I mean, you got one of the best tight ends in football. You got a great wide receiver core. You got a. I mean, who'd have thought Brock Purdy was going to be what he was when he was drafted last in the draft a couple of years ago? I mean, God. So I mean,
Kyle Shanahan.
I don't know about that. I mean,
Well, he did. He said it way back. He said it way back in 2012. He said this guy's going to be our starting cornerback and a future star. And look what happened.
Yep. Well. Anyway.
Kyle Shanahan's. You know what? He may not know how to coach with a lead in the Super Bowl, but he's a damn good coach otherwise.
28-3.
The 28-3 argument drives me nuts. So he was the offensive coordinator. In what world does the offensive coordinator get blamed instead of the head coach?
Or the defense.
I would say I would say that blame should go both ways.
It should go on the head coach. The head coach could have told him call fullback dive every play. The head coach is the one that has the final say on what the plays are.
Right, but is this a head coach that would have put his foot down to make the final call?
But that's his
was
problem.
he just letting Shanahan do what he wanted to do?
That's the head coach's problem. The head coach runs the team. I mean, I've never seen an offensive coordinator get blamed for
So
something
basically,
like
But they
Shanahan,
abandoned the run in the fourth quarter.
Shanahan is guilty by association.
that. Okay, so when the Chiefs blew that 38-10 lead against the Colts, do they blame Andy Reid's offensive coordinator for that?
Oh, man. No.
I don't know. I mean, it's
Everybody
the head
likes
coach.
to place blame everywhere. All I'm saying is that wherever Kyle Shanahan is in a Super Bowl, if there's a 10-point lead, he'll lose it. They'll lose it. Somebody's gonna lose it.
He's lost to Patrick Mahomes, who is starting on
Well, this year he lost to
as an
Patrick
all-time
Mahomes
great.
and a bunch of guys in stripes this year. Okay, that officiating was horrendous. How does the team that leads the league in holding not get a holding call in 3 Super Bowls?
That's my point. That's my problem.
How do you justify that without saying that the game is? You know what? That's a perfect argument for saying that the game is freaking rigged.
See, this is
Yeah, if
what
you're
I
going to
have
go
to
with that, it's a conspiracy or it's tilting one way or the other. That there is a big indication of why people feel
Prime
that way.
indication.
You see what I got to put up with, Derek? You see what I have to put up with on a
People don't
every week?
trust the hierarchy. Okay, they don't trust it, and especially when they're just trying to be media darlings all the time. You know what I'm saying?
Next thing you know, they'll be saying Dez caught it.
They ran with the Taylor Swift shit.
Wait a minute, Dez caught it. Does he play for the Cowboys?
He did.
Hell no, he didn't catch it.
Did not catch it. Totally unbiased opinion here. Didn't catch it.
Yeah, bullshit, Derek.
No, he didn't catch that. He didn't catch that pass. According to the rules in the NFL, that pass was incomplete, and I know because Stevie Wonder said so.
According to the rules at that time, I couldn't agree 100% more.
Speaking of rules, what do you think of the new kickoff rule, Derek?
don't know. I mean, I guess I'm gonna have to see how it works. I mean, my initial thought is they keep changing the rules so that they benefit the quarterbacks, and I think the quarterbacks are the ones that are going to benefit from this because the good quarterbacks are going to have better field position. It's going to improve field position for the offenses, and so you're going to have Patrick Mahomes, Josh Allen, the Lamar Jackson, the elite quarterbacks in the game starting off closer to the goal line because of the rule change. So I think it just makes it that much harder to win without a franchise quarterback when you keep tinkering with the rules like that.
So what you're saying is that they're not doing it for the safety aspect?
Oh, yes. That's all they care about is the safety aspect. That's all Goodell thinks about. With their Thursday night football, with their Friday night football. Yeah.
I'm talking about within the game, not how they schedule it during the week.
That's part of player safety. When you have guys playing on 3 or 4 days rest and not having a full week to recover, that's a player safety issue. And I think what this is the XFL has gotten good reviews about it and people are excited about it, and it's a way to have better field position, more points, exciting plays, and I think I think that's why it's being done. I don't think it has anything to do with player safety.
And the NFL proved themselves not to be about player safety by scheduling Wednesday football games on Christmas Day.
Exactly.
But they counted in the fact that they made sure that the teams that would be playing on Wednesday would play on Saturday as opposed to Sunday. So it gives it that Sunday, Thursday feel as opposed to playing on Sunday and then playing on Wednesday, only having basically 1 day to recuperate.
But Wayne, it's still ridiculous. It's ridiculous.
No. I totally disagree with it. I disagree with the Thursday night games as well, except for Thanksgiving. Because
Thanksgiving's
that tradition's been around for
Thanksgiving's a tradition.
Yeah, that's a tradition.
Yeah, I'm not in favor of the Thursday football games either because you know what? These guys, I mean, they go through it now an 18-game season or 17-game season over 18 weeks. Okay.
Give them time; they'll be 18.
And what's amazing to me is that they've added a Thursday game every single week now, not just Thanksgiving, and you know what? The injury is going to go up, and they have been. There's been a lot more injuries since we went to Thursday night games than there was before. So, I mean, I'm not in favor of it, but it is what it is. It's with the NFL. They want maximum exposure. They want to take over the entire.
It all comes down to one thing, Scott. Bottom line.
Money.
Yeah, but it would be an easy way to do the Thursday night games and have the player safety. Instead of worrying about having every team represented on Thursday night football, get the best teams Thursday night football games and set it up so they have their bye week before the Thursday night football game. You wouldn't be able to have as many of them as you do now, but you could still have some very good Thursday matchups through the season and stagger it with your bye week so that you basically get a bye coming into the Thursday game and then you get the long bye coming after. But they won't do it. There's too many games that they'd have to leave off the table, and it comes down to money.
Yeah, it is all about the money. All right, well, we talked about number 1 pick. What about the rest of the draft? What do you see number 2 going with the Commanders, number 3 with the Patriots, and then, of course, there's Arizona. There's also a lot of talk about teams trading up to number 4 to also get a quarterback, specifically what's-his-face from Michigan. I guess his draft stock is rising and rising and rising.
McCarthy?
J.J. McCarthy.
McCarthy.
I think there's going to be 4 quarterbacks taken in the first 6 picks. I think Washington's going to take Jaden Daniels.
Yeah.
I think New England's going to take Drake May. And then the question becomes, how does Minnesota trade up to get J.J. McCarthy? Because I think that's where he's going to go. But I don't think they're going to trade with the Cardinals because I think the Cardinals want to give Marvin Harris Jr. to Kyler Murray. So that
that's what I'm thinking too. I think the Cardinals take Marvin Harrison. Yes, I think
Minnesota also has the 11th and 23rd, right?
Yeah.
So they can package that if they need to.
Yeah.
Right. And so in my mock, I have him packaging it with the Giants. I could see him doing that with the Chargers too. But with the Chargers trading Keenan Allen and Mike Williams now with the Jets, they have no receivers, and Malik Neighbors is there at the 5th pick. And so I could see them taking the wide receiver to give Justin Herbert a wide receiver one to throw the ball to. But if Minnesota makes them a good enough offer, and the Chargers do have a lot of holes they need to fill after this offseason, maybe they would be willing to trade down too.
Well, I'll just say I'm shocked that you would think that Minnesota would package a deal with the Giants because they have Daniel Jones and he's their savior. I'm being facetious.
You mean Davy Jones? What?
And the Giants could take that quarterback at 6'2", but the thing is they signed that horrible contract with Jones, and the only reason he's still with the team is the contract, and I don't know if they love McCarthy or not to take him, and that's a team that has so many holes too. They could use the draft capital.
I'm surprised that the Giants didn't do what Denver did. Not that, Sean Payton and Russell Wilson, their relationship was bad to begin with, but why don't they just take a cap hit and get rid of Daniel Jones and get a quarterback?
I can't disagree with that. Because Daniel Jones is not the answer at all, and I thought it was a stupid idea. I thought it was a stupid idea to re-sign him after he won the playoff game, and it came to fruition last year.
Well, and I think behind closed doors they realize that Daniel Jones is not going to be the guy. They know it. They know it behind the scenes.
Who said JJ's going to Detroit? I can't see who said that.
That would be Sheila.
Sheila?
Yeah.
When does Detroit pick?
Detroit was in the NFC.
Detroit's in the lower part of the draft.
Yeah.
Right. They're not going to
They're
get
the 29th.
They're not getting JJ.
They're not going to get JJ.
Yeah, he won't be there. Trust me.
I don't think he gets.
And I'm sorry, but Detroit doesn't need a quarterback. Jared Goff's doing just fine. Thank you very much.
Yeah, Jared Goff has looked really good there, especially when they've surrounded him with a lot of nice pieces. And I don't think he's an elite quarterback, but I think he's good enough to build around with what they're trying.
Detroit's not going to trade up to get a quarterback.
No.
Because they have Jared Goff.
Yeah.
They're not going to do that. They got other places they can address, like their secondary.
Oh yeah, their secondary. Not the greatest. And jumping back to Daniel Jones, hot garbage. That's what I think.
I saw a crazy blockbuster proposal. I mean, John would probably have a coronary if he heard this, but I saw this thing the other day where it said that the Giants should trade for Josh Allen.
What?
And send Daniel Jones, the number 6 pick this year, a first round pick next year, a third round pick this year, and a second rounder in 2026.
Why would Buffalo do that?
They wouldn't.
No.
If Buffalo does that,
If they did that,
just like in Europe, they should be relegated to the UFL.
Yes, exactly.
That would be the stupidest trade. This must be some fan with some kind of crazy dream.
It must be a Giants fan from somewhere. I mean, come on.
Yeah. Some kind of crazy fever dream.
I don't write the shit. I read it and I share it. You know what I mean?
Well, wash your eyes out with soap, Elliot. Don't read that shit no more.
Yeah, you got to get off whatever board you're reading that on. You need to get off. So.
Yeah, you need to go ahead and unsubscribe.
Good God. Oh.
It'd be a good move for Josh Allen.
Oh, jeez.
No.
To play with Brian Daboll again?
No.
Well, what's he gonna do now? He's got no fucking receivers in Buffalo.
The Giants have no talent.
Who's their number one receiver? Khalif Shakir.
They just to get rid of their number one running back.
Who's their number one receiver?
For Christ's sake.
You could put that 3 receivers together, and you still ain't got a number one receiver.
They let Saquon Barkley go to the division rival Philadelphia. Give me a break.
They didn't let him. He was a free agent.
It's their fault.
And they weren't going to pay $13 million a year for him. That's all that is.
I don't worry about Josh Allen's receivers, though, just like I don't worry about Patrick Mahomes' receivers. And if you're an elite quarterback in the league, if you're one of the top 3-4 guys at your position, you make receivers that they draft. The Bills should be able to go and draft 2 receivers in this draft and plug them in there, and they should be fine.
Yeah, the way they draft
their offense should work.
Mahomes has done it for the last 5 or 6 years, for God's sake. He's you know.
Yeah,
This
but
is
you
a
see,
receiver-rich draft. So.
Andy Reid's a lot better coach than freaking Sean McDermott. Okay, Sean McDermott's clueless. That dude needs to go. He's capped out how far those Bills can get under his tutelage. Okay, and they can get to the second round, maybe the AFC Championship, but they'll either lose to Cincinnati or Kansas City.
Yeah, but here's
The
my
reason
thing.
they
and I-
lost to Kansas City this year was because of Sean McDermott.
As a Packer fan, I know about this because we haven't taken a wide receiver since 2002 in the first round, and we're fine because we've had Brett Favre and Aaron Rodgers there for the past 30 years, and now Jordan Love, and they got Devontae Adams in the second round, they got Jordy Nelson in the second round, Donald Driver was the 7th round pick, Ray Jennings was the 2nd round pick. When you have Hall of Fame caliber quarterback talent, you do not need to go and
Can all these
overpay
guys
for wide receivers. You could draft guys like that.
Can all these guys play defense? Because Buffalo's defense is shit. First of all,
Well, it is now with all the players they lost in the offseason.
Yeah, they're gonna have some issues on defense.
Yeah.
This year, big time.
that's what
Yeah.
they said. Josh Allen's going to have to learn how to play defense now because that's how bad they are.
Well, he plays quarterback, and he better learn to play cornerback.
And I don't think Buffalo is going to be one of the favorites in the AFC this year. I think they have lost too much to rebuild in one draft, but I think they had a window that was open. They weren't able to get through it and get to the Super Bowl, and they kind of mortgaged their future to try to do that. Now they need to reshuffle the contracts and rebuild and try to rebuild the roster so that they can take another run at it. But they're not going to do that trading Josh Allen to the Giants.
No.
Hey, Wayne, we signed another cornerback, dude.
Yeah,
Rock Yassin.
yeah,
Who?
Rock Yassin from
exactly. Who?
From Indianapolis.
Yeah, you can see the excitement all over my face.
That dude can ball, bro. I seen him balling in Indianapolis.
Yeah,
Although
he can go a little bit, but I mean, well, yeah, I'm not that excited.
He's probably a backup player, according to our
Why are
roster.
you touting him so high? He's a backup guy. Who cares?
What do you mean? Who cares? If you ain't got depth, you ain't got shit.
Oh, whatever.
Well, to piggyback on what Derek said about Buffalo not being, probably in the number 2 slot, I put Houston there, and you can thank Deshaun Watson for that, Scott. I knew I'd get that reaction.
Gee, who was it? Was that the Cleveland Browns?
Shut up.
I would still put the Ravens in the 2nd spot. I think getting Derek Henry is a perfect fit for that offense, and I don't think their window closed after last year.
Their window did not close. I would say 2A and 2B respectively, whichever way you want to flip it.
Well, they better run the ball more than 7. They better run the ball more than 6 times this time around when they're in the playoffs, because that was their freaking downfall.
Well, you got a bell cow
leading
like
rushing
you
team in
probably
the
will.
league and only 6 handoffs the entire freaking game. Come on now.
Yeah, horrible game plan. But no, I still think Houston's. My concern with Houston is I know people love the big splashes in the offseason, with bringing in established players, but Stephon Diggs is 30 years old, and Joe Mixon, I can't remember how old he is, but he's not that young either. And I always worry about acquiring players like that and then breaking down with injury. You see a lot of times where teams will build these, solid offenses on paper, and then all of a sudden you're 8 weeks into the season and you got a bunch of players on the injured list, and it doesn't come to fruition. So we'll see how it works for Houston. Even though I love Stroud and I love I love what they did last year.
Mixon, I'm concerned about injuries, but Diggs, I'm concerned about morale and chemistry.
Yes.
Right.
Well, basically, you know what? Diggs is playing for a new contract because Houston wiped out the last 3 years on his contract and let him play on a contract for this season.
Yep.
So if he's playing for top dollar, trying to get top dollar, he's going to give it his all and his best to do so.
Okay. But what happens when Nico Collins gets 12 targets and Dalton Schultz gets 8, and Tank Dell and all the other
He'll
receivers
just have to
get
wait
targets?
until the season's over so he can sign with somebody else.
Yep.
So you think he's going to be happy with getting 3 targets and having his
hell
mega
no.
contract sabotaged?
No, hell no.
No,
He's not happy getting 5 targets a game. So
no. I don't think he's going to sit there and he's not going to show he's a model citizen if he's not getting 8 to 10 targets and making an impact on the offense, so he can sign that payday. He's going to throw a fit. I think that absolutely has a potential.
Is that John? Are you talking?
Just to let you know, John said, "Are we talking Diggs without me?"
Yes, John, we are talking.
Yes,
Diggs
we
without
are
you.
talking about Diggs without you because he's no longer with Buffalo.
Right.
And you never know how these moves are going to work out, because Randy Moss was considered problematic when he was with the Raiders because he wasn't happy the Patriots took a chance on him, and it worked out. T.O. had issues in San Francisco and Philadelphia and had a good first season with Philadelphia and then Dallas. So, I mean, Diggs could go down there and have one of the best seasons in the league. But I think this idea that he's going to be a model citizen so he gets his next contract, no matter how many targets he has.
He wasn't a model. He wasn't a model citizen with the Vikings either. So
No,
I
don't think he ever has been. At least not.
he's a diva more than anything else.
He is.
I don't understand why wide receivers are more diva type than any of the other positions on the field. I've never understood that.
Well, it's because of the nature of the position in this time, this era's NFL, because they're the ones that make all the hot plays, they're the ones that make all the great catches, and they think that they're the reason why the team is good, and that's just the wrong attitude to have. It is a team game. It's probably the most. I mean, it's the one game that being part of a team means the most.
I think this might be the one year that Stephon Diggs may change his way, just because he knows that he's got a good shot at getting deeper into the playoffs with this particular team.
He had a good shot in Buffalo the last 3 or 4 years, though.
And Houston has a way better defense than Buffalo.
Yeah, we're talking draft, John. Yes.
Buffalo had the number 1 defense in the league a couple of years ago.
Yeah, they just couldn't use it against Kansas City. That's all.
Yeah, but okay, come on.
Derek, 13 seconds.
13 seconds. What kind of defense is that?
13 seconds.
I get that, but I think to say they didn't have a defense because they can't stop Patrick Mahomes I do not agree that Houston has a better defense than what Buffalo had that year. They might have a better play call.
They have a better defense now than Buffalo does.
Maybe.
Buffalo lost so much defense.
Yes, the Houston defense in 2024 is going to be better than the Buffalo defense in 2024. What I'm saying is Diggs wasn't being a great team guy up in Buffalo when they had a good defense. So I don't think having a good defense in Houston and knowing they're going to have a chance to compete for a title is going to keep him on his best behavior. He's going to want targets, and if he's not getting 8 to 10 targets a game and filling up the stat sheet so he can get a new contract, he's not going to be happy.
They gave up what for him? A 3rd round pick? Second round. Second, third. I thought it was conditional.
Regardless, I say I give them till week 6 before you start hearing rumblings in Houston.
I can
first couple of weeks of adjustment, and then after that, the frustration sets in if he doesn't get his targets.
And where the problem comes is Stroud is only a second-year quarterback. You don't have a veteran that's been there for 10 years that has a $200 million contract. You have a guy that's in his second year there, and that has the potential to be a lot to handle. And I think Stroud's up to the challenge. I mean, he looked good last year. That he was mature beyond his years. So, I mean, I think if anybody can handle that as a second-year player, he can. But that's why I get my concerns about Houston. I think Baltimore's got a lot more stability with what's going on.
I think it comes down to coaching.
Than what Houston has.
Nico Ryans right now is one of the best coaches in the NFL. Period.
Oh, without a doubt. He was obviously one of the best defensive coordinators in the NFL when he was with San Francisco. So
yeah,
he just translated that into a head coaching position and just carried forward.
Yep.
I'm not sold on Sean McDermott though.
Oh, same. I'm not either. I think they should get rid of him. I think he's been part of their problem up there. But again, they had a window and they had a good defense, and Diggs was not playing well in the sandbox. I'll put it that way.
Well, not to mention he dropped what could have been a game-winning reception, in that fourth quarter against Kansas City. That 60-yard bomb that he
straight through the hands.
Straight through the hands. What killed me was the stat that I had brought up a few weeks back, is that I think it was since the last playoffs over the last 6 years, I think it was. No, it was 4 years. Gabe Davis had more yards, more touchdowns than Stephon Diggs in the playoffs.
All in the Kansas City game.
I'm just saying, but you look at Stephon Diggs' stats at the end of this year. He had like 30 yards, 45 yards.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
He didn't have a 100-yard game receiving.
Look, for people that label him a wide receiver one, he ain't played like a wide receiver one for over a year.
Well, in the first year he got to Buffalo, he had the 200-yard games in the playoffs when they got to the championship game against Kansas City. He didn't have a 100-yard game in the playoff after that, and I think of the 6 playoff games he played, I think 4 of them he was below 60 yards. So no, he didn't score a touchdown in the playoffs.
He hasn't shown up wherever when he was supposed to as a QB, as a wide receiver one. And
for the last 3 postseasons.
I kind of think Buffalo now. I mean, it's gonna definitely settle the case of whether Josh Allen was dependent on Stephon Diggs.
I don't think he was.
No.
Oh, I don't think so.
He didn't do much of anything until Diggs got there, but Diggs. I think Diggs is showing a decline. To be honest with you,
Yeah,
I think he's declining.
Diggs was,
I don't think he's the wide receiver he used to be.
Diggs got there so early in Allen's career. To say that Allen hasn't done anything with Diggs, Allen was one of the best players in the league last year, with Diggs not being a number 1 wide receiver. So I don't think it's going to be about.
He was great in fantasy.
Oh, it's fantastic in fantasy, and I think he's going to be good in fantasy again this year. Their offense is going to take a step back, and one thing with Josh Allen is he does like to force the ball when it's not there. I expect his interceptions to go up because he's going to have to force the ball in wide receivers. So he's going to put up good fantasy numbers, but he's not going to be efficient doing it because it's going to be high risk, high reward there this year.
I'm not a big Josh Allen fan these days. He lost me $500 one day.
oh, jeez.
It always comes back to the money.
Back to the fantasy football. Yeah, back to fantasy football.
Why? He lost it because he couldn't get 2 stinking freaking yards on that last drive. Even though he had wide receivers open underneath to get them closer, he was trying to play hero ball and throw to the end zone 2 times. Okay? He had guys underneath, not to mention, hello, this team beat you, and this team came back and tied you, then beat you in a 13-second span. Why do you want to try to give them the ball with 1:43 with them having scored on you already? Because if Kansas City would have got that ball back anyway, they were going to score.
Aside from Big E's hatred of Josh Allen for monetary purposes, I think he'd be just fine without Diggs.
Hate is a bad word. Dislike.
your dislike. Okay, how about that?
Now I hate LeBron James, but no, I'm just kidding.
John's chiming in. Now tell me how many interceptions Manning had in his first years. This Josh Allen throws interceptions is boring. Maybe, just maybe, he had to force things to the diva. Maybe. Meaning Steph.
Yeah, well, if he's crying for the ball and you're running somewhat outside of the offense just to try to get him the ball, yeah, I could agree with John on that.
Me too. Me too. Derek, you're back on Sunday, right?
I am back on Sunday.
Okay, good. We'll have the whole panel. We can talk. You can talk
Hours
NFL
over
draft,
already?
whatever else comes up.
Shit.
Yeah, it's 8 o'clock, guys, so it's time to get out of here.
Fucking tough, man.
Thanks, everyone, for showing up tonight. It was a good show. And we thank Derek, as always, for coming on the show. We'll see you back again here on Sunday at 7:30 Eastern time at our normal time. And we will go over, hopefully, a lot more NFL draft than we did today, but we'll see what goes. We'll see what happens. You know, we usually fly by the.
Well, that's because we spent 20 minutes on OJ
and 20 minutes on Josh Allen.
20 minutes.
Ironically, both Buffalo Bills.
Very good.
Exactly.
Very good. All right, we're gonna get out of here.
We got buffaloed for this.
Yes, we did. Yes, we did. On behalf of my co-host, Mr. Elliot Big E Lamba, Mr. Wayne Lynch, and our special guest, Derek Lofland. I am Scott, the Sports Nerd. We will be back here again on Sunday night at 7:30 p.m. Eastern Time. With that being said, Elliot, play the outro.
And there you have it, folks. Another episode of the Sports Nerd Show in the books, and it's on to the next. Thanks each and every one of you for joining us. We do sincerely hope you will come back next week as we roll out another episode of the Sunday Night Sports Nerd Show. But until then, on behalf of the Sports Nerd Scott Wright and his co-hosts John Olson, Ken Costello, and me, Big E, we'd like to wish you all a great night and an excellent week that's filled with all the sports content any sports fan could possibly ask for. That's right, boys and girls. You've just been hit with a pack rant from the Rant Pack. And with that, Sports Nerd Nation, we are out.